Well, welcome to another edition of GW Unspoken, where we discuss stuff we don't typically talk about but should. And welcome to our guests out there, and teens, children, adults, no matter what your background is or whether you're working, not working, parent or not parent. Just really want to thank you for joining the show, and also for the feedback that people are handing in, and also some ideas of discussion on what they want to head towards or do some research on. And we're up to season 3, episode 3 on community and culture. And I think we need to talk about things like friendship dynamics. And I think while we talk about this, I want you to think about your friendship circle right now. So whether you're an adult driving to work or at gym or walking the dog, or you're at home just chucking this on, or you're cooking, or teenagers out there listening to this, what are your friendship dynamics like? What are your friends like at the moment? Because there's massive complexities of teenagers and friendships especially, but it also can be amplified when we're older as well. And the scary thing is that we all want to be part of a community. We all want to be part of a social group. And that's how we're built. You know, we want to belong. And it's really hard when we want to belong when things go against our value system. So the big one at the moment with teens is we don't like ratting people out. You know, it's an Australian culture. We don't like to dob people in because it only comes back to us twofold or threefold. We worry about how we look. We worry about superficially how we look. Adults do it all the time. We change outfits and hope they fit in. You know, how we act, how we actually behave and conduct ourselves. Like when we conduct ourselves, do we do it in the way that we do actually at home anyway, or do we put on a different, I guess, persona when we're out and about and meeting people just to belong, just to fit in? So teenagers, how are you doing with that? Adults, how are you going with that? Because when we're in conflict of who our true self is, that's when our mental health can decline very fast. How do we stop that? How do we stop caring about those things? How do we stop worrying about what we look or how we act? How can we actually say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to care what people think. It's massive with teenagers. A lot of them won't do it. 80% I reckon won't be their authentic self, maybe more, because they're worried about what people think and they can't stop caring about, you know, what their impact's going to be on them. Is it because they don't have enough self-esteem? What about yourself? How do you travel every single day when you interact with people? Are you putting on a fake persona? Or maybe we can be selfless with that. Maybe we can actually start thinking of ourselves and be our true authentic self. Others, there's only one of us. And I was talking to a group of people today and said, you know, people are attracted to you, or your friendships are part of your circle because they like you or who you are, not who you're necessarily acting like. And you can't always keep up and act. It never lasts. So how can we do that? What if we're having arguments? What if we're having arguments at home between adults and adults, or teens with themselves in groups, or, you know, siblings, or could be even adults with teens? How do we get out of that? I'm going to challenge the teens out there now. What if you have an argument, but then you could see yourself at 30 or 40 years old and you're looking at the argument? Could you look through it through someone else's eyes? What about if you're worried about how you fit in at the moment and you belong, and you're older and you're trying to tell yourself to, hey, just be yourself, forget what people think? Would just those words be able to stop your emotional thoughts of those? Probably not. Probably not. Unfortunately for our teens, they say that, especially boys, their testosterone goes up 800 times between, or 800% from when they're 10 to 14. And with that becomes a risk. With that becomes, you know, being loved by their peers and accepted by their peers, even if it's for the wrong thing. So how do we change that? How do we get back to our authentic self? How do we get along to being the person we truly are? You know, I think our social bonds are so important, and that hormone in our body, that oxytocin, that feel-good hormone we get through intimacy or cuddles or touch, or even talking with a close friend, it's so important. So teens want to belong. We want to belong. But a lot of times we don't want to stand out. We don't want to be that different person. And that may not be a bad thing, but what about if it is against your values? I mean, how does this relate at the moment to your environment? And just a side note for the adults. Are you acting, behaving, conducting yourself as your true authentic self every single day? Especially in the workplace, with your peers? I want you to think about it. I want you to have a true thought process of how you're acting with that right now. So how do we help our teens, and even the teens who are listening out there? Like, there's so many ex-teens I've seen now who come and I'll pass them and out in the Esplanade here locally at Redcliffe, and they'll often say, I just actually miss the discipline. I actually miss the structure. And it's crazy, but I think some of that old school stuff can help. I think schools these days are way too serious. Kids' dopamine levels are through the roof through social media and technology and gaming. You've got online access to everything. So if education's going to be boring, you're not going to keep them engaged. I think there's still discipline needs to be important. I think consistency needs to be important. Being fair is teens see that. Your peers see that. Adults, you see that. The way other adults act towards other adults as well. We learn that. So I think it's important that we be silly, we be fun with our teens, with each other. We have some fun. When was the last time you actually mucked around in a relationship? Like within the boundaries, but when was the last time you heard someone say, they are hilarious, that was so funny, and you just see them light up their face? I think we still need to be firm when needed with our teens. I think we still need to get to eye level and listen and build those connections, because as soon as we shout down, or if teens are having arguments with their other friends who are teenagers as well, or their parents, we know that those arguments can still keep in our memory bank. And for next time, we know that disconnect can happen so fast. So it's so important to have that conflict resolution strategies where we actually, we care and we try as much as we can, even though we might be hidden, our battle and our emotional brain might go crazy. We need to have that time where we go, not working, we go, just shut off, we've got to walk away for an hour or 2 hours and come back, because I'm going to lose it. My amygdala is going to go off. I'm going to lose it. So what are some strategies? What are some things that we can actually build these complexities of friendships? How can we improve the dynamics? How can we, again, create or build a really positive community and culture with our friends, which is so important? How about we encourage great communities? How about we go do things like sport and exercise, whether you're sporty or not? If you actually read all of the information on sport or physical activity, there's no way you would not, and you believed it, there's no way you would not do something every single day. You would not make an excuse of time. You would not make an excuse of weather. You would just do it. If the brain is the captain of the ship and sport is one of the most important things along with nutrition, you would find time to do sport or physical activity. You would just find time. Given it's walking the dog, you would do it. What if something for our young kids like nippers, or something that improves their health? It could be art therapy. It could be dance. Could be joining a band. What are some things that we could do to encourage great communities? Because I can tell you one thing, it takes one person from a different community, one different friend, that can change the course of who you are. That influence, because we know friends have such a massive influence. Adults out there, you're listening to me, you know this. You know that who you hang around, you become. It just happens that way. So who can we meet? Who can we find in maybe a different type of community, sport, activity, a community group, helping out? What's something we can do that we can encourage our teens to join, to meet that one friend who might be able to help with their confidence, who might get them out of a friendship group that you're not very happy with? How about going with them and support them at this community group? If you go along and support them, they know that you're there for them. That can build massive connection. And they'll know that. Teens won't necessarily say that, but they'll know. They'll know that you're there. What if you supported your significant other? Or, if you're an older person, even one of your mates? How about we talk about building and creating a community with other families? What if your teenager, for example, if you're a parent, just met a new person, a new friend through a different sporting organisation or some community group, and you suddenly did a barbecue on the Esplanade? Low key, you didn't have to go to someone's house, but you got to know the family. See if there's like-mindedness, because that will change the mindset. That will actually build community. That will build that friendship dynamic. What are some things you can do to get out of your comfort zone? Get out of your house, stop watching Netflix, stop working 24/7, and do the things that really matter. And that's looking after your teen or looking after yourself in building a positive community, because that impact is huge. I think there needs to be an attitude shift. I think we've got to start loving the process. We know that there's going to be winter seasons where we feel bad and we feel down and we don't have motivation and stuff happens to us. It happens to all of us. And I don't mean that to be, I guess, not caring or supportive, but everyone has a winter season. It's what we plant in the winter season. How do we move forward? How can we get out of our comfort zone? Because if we're ever going to wait for happiness or wait for something to happen for us to be happy, it will never happen. We have to create that. What if you've got a great group of friends now during that winter season that can get you through? But that can be a complete game changer. And when we're dealing with teens and we're trying to support people where their amygdalas are fired up and they go from zero to hell very fast because that's the way their brains are built, we've got to start loving that process. And it sounds ridiculous, but we've got to start loving the process, knowing it's going to happen. And if we are stressed out and we're angry, we need to maybe have that 1 or 2 hours out where we, de-escalate, the amygdala calms down so we don't break that connection. We don't have to agree with everyone, but we can love the process. We can actually start thinking, hey, they're right on track. They're supposed to push back. Teens are supposed to have questioned values and beliefs of the family values. How can we get at eye level? How can we actually listen? How can we actually paraphrase and say, hey, I understand where you're coming from, but this is what our family stands for? How can we be firm, fair, and consistent, but fun? How can we keep those social bonds so strong? How can we connect? How can you connect? This week, the challenge is, how can you keep your connections? Can you meet someone different? Can you go out of your way when you don't feel like going out of your way? If you're feeling down, can you do that just to improve your friendship dynamic, to improve your community? Because the people you hang around is definitely the way that you start suddenly being. You can create that community, you can create that like-mindedness. And I think belonging is so important. But unfortunately, too many of us think that we're too busy to do anything like that, to do something different. Be fun, be different, find the people you want to associate. And I look forward to talking to you in our next edition of GW Unspoken.